Ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 p.m. It's Friday night, which means it's time for the Four-Leaf Clover podcast. Friday Focus.
Happy Friday.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the Four-Leaf Clover podcast Friday Focus show. Patrick, how are you getting on, sir?
Yep, all good here, Scott. Blistering hot here in sunny Ballymena. So just been enjoying the temperatures since I came home from work. So just glad to see Friday evening, Scott. Love getting the chance to get the pod done before the weekend really starts. So all going well here.
Good man, good man. Such a good laugh the other night. So hopefully we get the same sort of crack out of the night again, Andy. It's hilarious.
It was a good laugh. Looking forward to tonight. It's been a long week. Weather's been unbelievable. I was parked about Bolton area last night. Over 30, just over 30 degrees in that truck, man. Honestly, it's just no chance of getting asleep. So I'm glad to be home and into my own house.
Good man. And Kaiser, nice to see you as well, sir. How are you getting on?
Excellent, legend. Sorry, I was a wee bit delayed there. The computer played a wee bit of funny buggles and froze up just as I was joining, so I had to refresh it and come back in. I seen my man Andy sent us a picture. He looked like Ace Ventura inside that big rhino. He was sweating balls. Absolutely dripping, my man. But living my best life, loving the weather, as you can see. I've even got Bob out. I've got Bob out for a tour, trying to get my wee bit of colour about him. It's the palest Bob Marley you've ever seen in your life.
It's the same here. I was telling Andy before we came on, the fan is right next to my curtain here, man. It's unbelievable here as well, as you can imagine. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a stacked show for you this evening. The new fixture list came out. We'll be having a wee chat about that. Chris Boyd had a bizarre title claim for the Rangers, which was quite hilarious. Chris Sutton had a few things to say about Brendan Rodgers, and Kyogo is being linked with Birmingham, strangely enough, in the Championship. So we're going to have a wee chat about all those things. We've also got the last man standing segment right at the end. And if you look in that right midfield, right winger position, Jamesy Forrest was the man who got the number 7 jersey. Neil Lennon got the number 6 jersey. Virgil van Dijk has got the number 5. Roy Aitken, number 4. Kieran Tierney, number 3. Danny McGrain, number 2. And Arthur Boric, number 1. I just need to say as well before I come on, my next door neighbour's actually drilling at the minute and it was some noise coming. So if you hear a big massive noise, that's exactly what it is as well. So let's get into it then, lads. The fixture list for Celtic has been released. And it's quite a tough opening 5 fixtures, I would say, Paddy. St Mirren at home, Aberdeen away, Livingston at home. Andy's can't wait for that one.
Yep.
Rangers away and Kilmarnock away. So very tough start to the season, Paddy, but you know, it gives us an opportunity to push forward straight away, doesn't it, mate, and get all those points in the bag.
It does. It's a great start, Scott. Some cracking fixtures here, just in those first 5. 2 home games and 3 away in the first 5. So once again, this supercomputer seems to come up with these things every single year, and it seems to inconvenience Celtic in some way, which always seems to be the way. But listen, it's all about the league. It's all about what you do over the course of we spoke about the grind from beginning of August till middle of May next year. So it's all about what you do over the course of the season. And the games even themselves out. You've the equal amount of home games as you have away games, so it will all even itself out. So, but great start for us at home. The Flag Day, where we'll be unfurling the flag. St Mirren, I hazard a guess. St Mirren, we're probably looking to play anybody, only Celtic on the opening day of the season after getting a good result in the last game. But wee chance for them as well. And then straight up to Pittodrie for the first game of the season against Aberdeen away. Going to be very, very tough there. Newly promoted Livingston then as well. And then we obviously travel across Glasgow to play the Rotten Mob on the 31st of August. And then just when you don't think that can get any worse, you get a game against Kilmarnock on their old dodgy plastic pitch. So there's a wee bit of everything there in the first 5 games, Scott. But you know what? It's like everything else. And Brendan will say this. You'll hear Brendan saying this throughout the season. You just tick them off one game at a time. That's what we've done for the last sort of 20 years. We've just ticked these games off one by one. You just play the next game, you play the next opponent, and you don't worry too much about what's coming down the line in 2 weeks' time or 5 weeks' time or whatever. Just take it a game at a time. Let's get off to a good start. If we can get a resounding result at Celtic Park, raise the flag for the championship flag, and get us off to a flyer. That's all we want at this stage.
Aye, no, mate, you're absolutely bang on there. Bang on. I've got some slides as well, Andy, before I come to yourself, mate. So the SPFL have officially released the full fixture list for 2025-26 season. And Celtic set to open the campaign at home to St Mirren on Sunday, the 3rd of August. Brendan Rodgers' side will be aiming to regain their title, and they'll begin the defence of the trophy at Celtic Park before facing early away tests against Aberdeen and the Rangers within the first month. The first Glasgow derby of the season arrives on the final weekend of August, when Celtic travel across the city to face Rangers at Ibrox on Sunday, the 31st of August. The return fixture at Celtic Park is set for Saturday, the 3rd of January, a date that's sure to be circled by both sets of supporters. A third league meeting between the sides will come on the 28th of February at Ibrox, once again, meaning Celtic will host just one league derby before the league split. Celtic will be busy over the festive period, with 6 fixtures scheduled between the 3rd and 30th of December. That run includes away trips to Falkirk, Livingston and Motherwell, alongside home matches against Dundee and Aberdeen. Squad rotation likely, this stretch could prove decisive in the title race. Newly promoted Falkirk return to the top flight and will visit Celtic Park on the 29th of October. The Bairns host Celtic for the reverse fixture on the 13th of December. Rodgers' side will also face Dundee United twice before the end of January. And finally, the final run of matches before the league split sees Celtic away to Dundee on the 4th of April, before wrapping up their pre-split campaign at home to St Mirren on the 11th of April. By that point, the table should be taking shape, and Celtic will be hoping to lead once again. With European qualifiers and cup competitions yet to be scheduled, fixture congestion could be a major factor. But the league dates are now set. Celtic's path to potentially another title has been laid out, and it starts at Celtic Park in just 6 weeks' time. I think one of the things, Andy, is that December fixture congestion. As we know, we still play in Europe then as well, regardless. So that December fixture list looks a killer, doesn't it?
It does, mate. Aye. We've seen that last season, try to fit European football around about the domestic fixtures as well. It's it puts heavy pressure on your squad, and even a couple of injuries can be quite detrimental to your kind of league campaign, or European wise. It could affect that as well, depending on timings and stuff like that. Just touching on the first 5 games, domestically fixtures released. Why we know opening the league campaign? Why is it the Sunday? And at that, it's 4:30 p.m. and which is an absolutely ridiculous time. Like say, Paddy, I seen Paddy putting a post out in Planet Celtic about no consideration for the Irish fans as per usual when it comes to things like this. I know kind of Celtic's hands are tied in a way with us that the supercomputer puts these fixtures out, but questions have got to be asked. When are the fans going to get a wee bit of respect here? we know the commitment they put in, because we've got it first hand for Paddy. The times he's got to get up, the cost of getting to the stadium and working next day and all this, you know, it's one thing at that time when you actually stay in Glasgow, but when you stay in Ballymena and you've got buses to get and ferries to get and you're working the next day and all this, it's a pretty ridiculous situation. Plus the fact we should be opening the league campaign as well. And then you've got obviously 3 away games in the 5 games, and 3 of the games you're potentially playing catch up, depending on other results. But that's the way it is, you know. So potentially it's a wee bit tricky. You've got Pittodrie away from home, and you're going to Mordor as well. And then you've got 2 plastic pitches in there as well. One plastic pitch. We're playing Livingston. We've got 1 plastic manager coming to us, and I've got a plastic pitch at Kelly again. The sooner we see the back of these pitches, the better. It's just an embarrassment that your professional game has these surfaces, let alone teams like Livingston that are playing in our top flight, which I can't tell you how disappointed I'm that nobody else could get by them. I think it's the detriment of your league that a team like Livy are in here. I know they fully deserve being in, I totally get that, but they're horrible. They're really horrible. But I think potentially there's a couple of real tricky games in there. That Aberdeen away, it depends how they start as well, I suppose. You know, if they start the way they did last season, then it could be quite tricky. But we'll just need to wait and see.
Aye, Kaiser, what did you make of, first of all, the opening 5 fixtures there, and you know the news about December going to be an absolute bam by the looks of things? What are you making it all, mate?
See the first 5 fixtures there, and like everybody else, I fail to understand why we are not opening the next league campaign. That's what the previous champions do. We should be opening, and also the time they've set for people like Paddy and all the other Irish support who show such dedication, travelling, getting up in the morning, bringing family members, booking hotels, pouring such money into not only Celtic but Glasgow, brings to highlight some people talking about Glasgow introducing a traveller tax for people who are travelling into the city, an extra £5 a night on your hotel. I think every Celtic fan should be leaning towards telling them to jam that right up their shite pipe, because Glasgow City Council deserve absolutely nothing from us. They do nothing but milk us. They provide no facilities for us. They won't allow us to have a fan zone or nothing. That run of fixtures looks incredibly difficult to me, incredibly tricky to traverse. Not only that, but it falls in between. The visit to Mordor is right after our qualifying game, our second leg of the qualifying game. So you can only guesstimate that that's going to be on a Wednesday or Thursday night. Celtic are going to pour absolutely everything into getting this qualification done. We don't even know if it's going to be home or away yet. We don't know who we're going to be playing, where we're going to be playing. Is it going to be a long travel for players? And as you says, that December schedule makes absolutely no sense. When we sat in weather like this in the summer, with our thumbs up our shabbas, just sitting here doing nothing, they could space these games out a bit better. They could start the league campaign a bit earlier and ease the fixture congestion. We do definitely need squad depth. So I hope Celtic start getting these transfers that are rumoured and players that are coming in and getting tours of Lennoxtown. Get them cemented in, get these players in here. And lots of people just need to calm down. We just can't make every single signing a first team ready to go player. But I'm expecting us to, as I've said a couple of times, I'm expecting us to bring in at least 5 first team players and 6 squad players. But I'm also expecting a lot of players to be sent out the door as well.
Just another thing to note as well, folks. I don't know if you remember, but the European teams this season have got a wee bit of dispensation. So they're allowed to postpone a game to help us get into the Champions League. And every other team that's in Europe and Scotland have got that as well. So it would be the Livingston game that we could postpone, which is a week before the Rangers game. We have the option to postpone that game if we so wish, to help us with the European thing. So that's something that might come into play. The Rangers might postpone that game as well. I don't know who they've got, but I'm assuming if we're at home, they're away. So I think they're more likely to postpone their game away from home and keep that for a rainy day sort of thing. I wouldn't say we'd be postponing Livingston at home. I don't think they're going to cause us that many issues, really. So just that's one to note. So something else as well that happened today. I don't know if you've seen it on Sky Sports. This guy, Chris Boyd and Chris Sutton. I know Chris absolutely roasted them again, as ever. It was quite funny. So if you've not seen it, go back and watch it. But this is what he had to say. So Celtic strolled to the Scottish Premiership title last season, finishing 17 points ahead, despite a couple of derby defeats and a noticeable drop in form during the second half of the campaign. Even when not firing on all cylinders, Brendan Rodgers' side had more than enough to leave the Rangers and the rest of the league in their wake. With Rodgers now heading into his third season back at the helm, in his second spell, Celtic are in a strong position. The Irishman is settled, the squad is stable, and several signings are expected to be completed in the coming weeks. There's a clear plan in place at Lennoxtown, and no signs of panic. Over at Ibrox, however, it's a different story. The Rangers have recently appointed Russell Martin as head coach, a manager with no previous coaching experience in the Scottish game and a lot of work ahead of him. His arrival signals another reset for a side that's struggled for consistency and direction since Steven Gerrard's departure. Despite all of that, Chris Boyd has decided now is the time to declare that Rangers will win the league. The former striker made the claim without offering any tactical explanation or insight into how the gap would be closed. For Boyd, it seems belief alone is enough. He said to Sky Sports, "Yeah, well, I think obviously Celtic will start the season as heavy favourites. There's no doubt about that. They've got all the top quality in the league, but the Rangers will win it," says the staunch Boyd. It's a big claim from Boyd, but there's not much behind it. Celtic have a strong squad, a proven manager, and the backing to improve again. They've already shown that they can win the league comfortably, even when not at their best. Rangers are still chasing. Russell Martin will need time to get his ideas across and figure out what he's working with. Even with a good summer, closing a 17-point gap will not be easy. And finally, Rodgers knows what it takes to win. Celtic have stuck with a clear plan and have the quality and depth to go again this season. Boys' comments will get people talking as ever, but there's little to support them. Celtic look ready to kick on, and the Rangers are still trying to find their feet. So, Patrick, very bizarre claims from Chris Boyd. No substance whatsoever. He's got nothing to back up his claims. What is Chris Boyd talking about?
You know what, Scott? It's another example of the type of thinking that goes with the media in Scotland and these guys that they get as pundits. And it absolutely fries my head. They can't separate their bigotry and give an honest opinion. They have to just go with the company line, And I heard the interview. He offered absolutely nothing to back up his claim, to give us any kind of a reason as to why he feels that. There's in my opinion, there's still going to be a massive turnaround of players there as well. So at this present minute in time, they don't even know what their preferred first 11 is going to be. And as Chris Sutton pointed out, Celtic are settled. Probably hoping that nobody leaves at all. I don't think there's going to be many leave at all from Celtic. Really settled, set up. A manager that's comfortable in his own skin, comfortable with the way he works. And as I say, it's just one of these things I say that really just yanks my chain about this Sky Sports and their coverage in Scotland. Clowns like Boyd shouldn't be anywhere near a television studio or a mic. Just the guy offers nothing. Other than just sheer bias. As I say, if you watch some of our pods during last season, there were times where we had to criticize our own team, we had to criticize our own players, and that wasn't done. That wasn't done to sensationalize anything. It was just done when it was needed. And this is what it is. You give an honest opinion on something, and sometimes you need to set aside your own personal allegiance, and call the thing as you see it. And Boyd just doesn't have the ability to do that. Unfortunately for him, he's up against a master in Chris Sutton, who who just sits back and reels them in every single time, you know, and you can just see it in Big Sutton's face. He just loves winding them up, and I think he came out with a statement afterwards that he said he would be very confident that Rangers will finish in the top 6. You know, so again, as I say, you know, Chris Sutton offered a reason and a well-honed argument as to why he believes that Celtic will be champions again. But Boyd offered absolutely nothing at all, apart from just his personal bigotry, his personal bias towards Rangers. It's as simple as that. You know, and this is what you're doing. You know, if you watch, it's absolutely cringy, Scott, when you watch the coverage down south. You know, you watch Roy Keane, you watch Gary Neville, you watch Jamie Redknapp, you know, Jamie Carragher, you know, Micah Richards. You know, these guys all have allegiances to their own clubs that they played for, but you would never ever hear those guys. You know, Roy Keane in particular, like Roy Keane has probably been the biggest critic of Manchester United over the last 3 or 4 years and continues to be so. He's not gonna just dress it up and butter it up as something else to please the Manchester United fans because he's on Sky. You know, so it's just another example of, you know, as I say, it's poor from Sky, to be honest. You know, it's absolutely poor from Sky that they continue to give this trumpet a you know, airspace to talk. And, you know, because as I say, for me, he just offers absolutely nothing there. And that today was just an example of, you know, I don't care what has happened in Scotland, but Rangers will win it next year. You know, so it's laughable.
Aye, as Andy, I don't know if you've seen it, mate, but Sutton had him on toast again. He just offers no substance whatsoever. He doesn't explain himself. He can hardly put a sentence together. The guy's just an absolute fucking tit, man. What did you make of his comments, mate? He should be getting pressed by the reporter, shouldn't he, mate? And give us the substance behind your prediction. He couldn't offer anything.
Of course he couldn't, because you would need evidence for that. Even though if it's somebody's opinion, you would need to go into in-depth detail as to why you actually think that, and they can't come up with anything. Because listen, this is a guy just a few months ago was absolutely slating Rangers and at Clement. Then Barry Ferguson came in and never really done any better. So they might have had that odd wee result against Celtic now and again. That was it. They finished the season with nothing. So where is the evidence that they're going to topple Celtic? Somebody it's been a team that's been dominant for the best part of 25 years. And the evidence is there for that. We only just narrowly missed out on another treble. Record breaking again. Celtic are on for the treble again. I don't see where is the evidence that they're going to challenge us. We've got a very settled team, and we're going to add quality to that as well. Winning mentality in our team. They haven't get it. We don't know what is happening across the road. They don't even know. They don't know. For me, I would be absolutely raging if I was Chris Sutton, because they find the two of them together, and there's no intellectual comparison at all.
It's a mismatch.
Exactly. And what they're doing is actually showing him up, and he's quite willing to go along with it and been shown up for the idiot that he is. If you're daft enough to be paying Sky £100 a month or whatever it is, that's where your money's gone, on fucking clowns like this. So if there's any IPTV providers out there, there's the reason why people are going out and no paying Sky, because they're especially when it comes to the coverage of Scottish football, is an absolute joke. The amount of times we have seen overlays put up about teams playing, and it's the wrong teams that are up, spelt teams wrong, the wrong information. They absolutely don't care. And that's one reason why they don't care, is because the evidence is there. Look who they're putting up. They've got Chris Sutton, a very good pundit. Somebody that just plays with him. You know, he just flings him about like a rag doll with Boyd. And he thinks he's got something there. Sutton. You know, it's like they're trying to make him out to be a cannon and ball, or a Morecambe and Wise. No, a double act. It's not a double act. Yeah. It's very, very, very kind of. It's laughable. It's an absolute joke. Anything that guy says, I just don't even register in my mind, because it's absolute garbage. The guy is a fucking clown. Let's be honest, you know, and it doesn't belong anywhere near a TV screen. That's for sure. So, he's an idiot.
Yeah. It's like watching Gareth Gates try to take on Frank Sinatra at the karaoke, and it's just a joke, man. It's just an absolute joke.
And it's just to touch on it, Scott, too. Andy made a great point there, and it's just something I meant to say earlier. You know, again, you see the 4:30 kickoff on a Sunday. I can tell you right now, that's the last time you'll see Celtic or any other Scottish game at 4:30 on a Sunday. That game is only being used to slot in until the English, till the proper stuff starts next week. That's all. Yeah. That's why we're getting that slot.
Paddy, see, just talking about that issue, sorry to interrupt you. Mind the Celtic Rangers game at Celtic Park, the 3-0 game at night. Yeah. That's the only reason that was played as well. So there was no English football in at that time. They knew the audience was going to be there. So the uses to whatever means suits them.
They use us to fill a slot. So we're filling that slot, that 4:30 slot. That's their flagship slot on a Sunday for the Super Sunday for the big teams like Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal. We're only being given that slot because there is no English football till the following week. So that's the one. And so you know they just use Scottish football when it suits them, and then just discard you. As I say, there won't be another 4:30 kickoff on a Sunday in any Scottish game this season. Not on Sky anyway. So I just wanted to just remind you of that one.
Aye, no, you're absolutely fine, mate. Kaiser, Andy made another cracking point there as well, mate, when he said that I don't think they should be looking at us. I think they should be more interested in Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, Dundee United. I think Hearts would be the team that split, you know, the Glasgow 2 this season. They've got a cracking manager. They've made cracking signings. But for him to come away with that, I know it is probably tongue-in-cheek from him, but the guy needs to be taken off Sky Sports. He's just a laughing stock.
He's there for the specific reason of being a laughing stock. He makes inflammatory comments, so Sky get lots of clicks and they can post up his comments and people moan about them, go crazy about them, talk about them. He's an absolute rubber-headed dundernut. And he would punt his bum for a steak bake 110%. I'm sure I've seen him doing it Greg's down the road here at Ibrox a few times over towards Asda. He's completely intellectually mismatched with Chris Sutton. Chris Sutton is an intellectual giant. My man Boyd fills out his benefit applications in Jumbo Crayola. He only submits everything in crayon. Absolute utter moron. I remember being told stories from my mum when I was younger, and she would say, never argue with a moron because they'll drag you down to their level and then they'll beat you with experience. So it's something I always just walk away from when idiots try and get on my back or argue with me. I'm always like, there's no getting through to you anyway. So admiration for Chris Sutton, but he is literally using a samurai sword to joust against a guy that's holding a spoon. I love the fact that heard the stories of Pandora and all the miseries and hurt and pain of the world she had in a box, and she opened the box and let every one of them escape, but closed the box just in time to keep hope inside. And that's exactly what Chris Boyd has, that little bit of hope inside, and it's the hope that kills them. He's out there basically shouting, the Rangers are coming again. I just see Chris Sutton with that cardboard cutout like, the Rangers are coming, the Rangers are coming. That's all he does. He's like something off of Thunderbirds. He's an absolute muppet. And what the boys are saying is 110% correct about Sky TV. They undervalue Scottish football as a product. I can explain it to you straight away. I can lay it out, deck it out in one instance. Celtic are a global brand, a global community. We have fans all over the world. If Celtic TV was worth its salt, akin to Netflix or the NBA or NFL apps, £10 a month. Say you get 600,000 buys at £10 a month. That's £6 million a month, £72 million a year. And that's just coming right into Glasgow Celtic. Just with a little bit of mathematics, Celtic could be making an absolute fortune for their TV deal. Not only that, when it's all hosted in the one place, all the Celtic content's in one place. It gives you the opportunity to advertise everything that Celtic sell as well. All to Celtic fans, all in one place, and the money coming directly into the club. So Celtic really need to take a long, hard look at themselves. I'm sick of trying to talk about it and express my opinions about it, and it falls on deaf ears. Usually it's to other podcasts, it's not to you guys and that, but you try to express it in other chats, and people are like, never, have you seen Celtic TV? It cuts out, it's in and out. But look, that's the framework, that's the basic production. We have people like Chris Sutton there who you take on full time, get him to present the shows, and you never have anyone like Boyd on it. You get people of an intellectual comparison who can take criticism, look at their own team and criticise. We're all looking at Ibrox. There are rivals. We watch them closely. Know yourself and know your enemies. That's how you achieve true victory. We've done that for the lion's share of 25 years. Last year, they played well against us in a few games. Very much a counter-attacking side. It was the rest of the teams in Scotland that they struggled to play against as well. When they came up against a low block, they had absolutely no answer for it. They had no way to break it down and nothing to do. They need to be worrying about other teams and not just Celtic as well. He's absolutely spot on about that as well, Andy. Again, it just stands testament to the utter stupidness that it is to just blindly support and not view things with an objective eye. We've done it ourselves. We went into performances last season, especially towards the end of the season and tailing off, and we were criticising players. They're holding Kyogo up like some sort of banner, right? Like some sort of golden fleece that they can beat Brendan Rodgers with. Like, look at the mistake Brendan Rodgers made, letting Kyogo go. In my honest opinion, Kyogo was so far off form before he left. It was utterly unbelievable. He hadn't scored in weeks and weeks and weeks. His goal record was drier than a camel's toes walking across the desert. It was an absolute marvel to get rid of Kyogo and bring in Jota. To say that we never replaced Kyogo, well, we never replaced him like for like, but the business we did do there to bring Jota back was absolute stellar. And Daizen Maeda moving up and going through the middle, that's another thing that's been explored and altered Brendan's perception and altered the kind of targets that we're going for. That's why we're being linked with young, fast players who can play through the middle, pick the ball up and run and have excellent movement as well. I'm really excited about next year, and I really do hope we get it right. I really do hope the board don't rest on their laurels and don't engineer decline. So I'm watching them intently to see exactly what's going on. And all the legends in chat, just before I pass back to the rest of it, thank you all for being here. We rely on your support. We said that, we'll say it time and time again. Your likes, your shares, your activity, your comments. These are basically the 12th man, just the same as the Celtic crowd is. But on here right now, you're the 5th man. My big man Jerry's working as hard as he possibly can. He's slinging scaffold about like nobody's business.
Scotty, just 2 seconds, touching on something Kaiser says about it's the hope that kills him. It's actually moved. That's kind of shifted. It's now the expectation that's going to kill them. So that they've moved for that hope, and they're now expecting, to kind of clear the board when it comes to trophies. And they're going to have a rude awakening because it's not as simple as that. Yeah.
No, bang on. Great points, lads. We have spoke about Celtic TV on here a few times already, Kaiser. You must have missed it, mate. We over here in Spain, they have Real Madrid and Barcelona TV on terrestrial TV over here. So you're bang on with that. We have spoke about it, and it would be amazing if they did, expand it and bring in more presenters and make it a proper TV station for Celtic fans. That was on 24 hours a day like it is over here. Even put all games on through the night, things like that. They don't need presenters in the studio to do that. So it's something I'm certainly positive about in the future. So moving on.
They could bring in things like this podcast run by supporters and bring that in and full slots and full shows. Of course, we would improve as well.
Exactly, man. There's loads of potential there. So enough of Chris Boyd. His sparring partner, Chris Sutton, had something to say on this man as well. So what was Chris Sutton saying? He was questioned whether Brendan Rodgers will extend his stay at Celtic beyond the upcoming season, with the Irishman soon to enter the final 12 months of his current deal. Rodgers returned to the club on a 3-year contract in 2023, but Sutton believes the manager's long-term intentions remain unclear. Rodgers' initial spell at Hoops ended abruptly in 2019 when he left mid-season for Leicester City. While his second stint has delivered 2 league and cup doubles, questions around his commitment have surfaced again, with no extension yet agreed. The lack of clarity is starting to draw attention, particularly as Celtic prepare for a season of Champions League qualifiers in August. With stability at the top often vital to success, there's growing interest in whether the hoops will move to tie Rodgers down beyond next summer. Sutton said to Sky Sports, "I think from a supporter's perspective, yeah, they'd like to see that. But I think we'll see. I think we'll see this one just really rumble on." Brendan came back, signed a 3-year contract, talked about seeing it through, and then who knows, at the end of the season, he may think, 3 years is enough. I'm sure there will be clubs who'd want Brendan Rodgers to manage a particular club, whether it's down south again or abroad. But I do think it's a wait-and-see situation. But I take your point. For the stability moving forward, I think every Celtic supporter would like to see Brendan nailed down for another couple of years. But I suspect that's not going to happen. Rodgers' second season back in charge was largely positive, delivering another League and Cup double and showing clear progress in Europe by guiding Celtic into the Champions League knockout playoffs. However, Sutton's comments highlight the growing sense that a long-term plan is still lacking. The months ahead could prove crucial, not only for shaping summer recruitment, but also for the message it sends throughout the dressing room. And finally, with pre-season just weeks away, the board faces a decision. Do they seek early assurances from Rodgers or accept the risk of entering the season with speculation hanging over the manager? So supporters will want clarity sooner rather than later. The memories of Rodgers' abrupt exit in 2019 haven't faded with some, and no one will be keen to see a repeat. As things stand, the situation looks set to develop in the background, with Sutton rightly describing it as something that could rumble on well into the new season. Paddy, could this have ramifications for the sort of players that we could attract this season if they know that Brendan Rodgers is leaving at the end of the season? Or will he make it known to these players, that he is hanging around? There's loads of different things we could talk about this, but what do you make about Chris Sutton's comments on him not hanging around after this season?
Do you know what, Scott? He may be right. He may end up proving being right. I said towards the tail end of last season I wouldn't bet on him extending his contract. I certainly wouldn't bet on him after what happened the last time. He's come in. He came back to basically right or wrong, and he's certainly done that in the 2 seasons that he's been back. And he still has one more season, and he's already told us he will be there at least until the end of next season. But the one thing that I do think, and I think this is the one that might make a difference, is I honestly think that Brendan will look at how far the board are prepared to push the boat out this summer, and see if he gets, if he gets the standard of player and the quality of player that he clearly wants and feels that we need to take us to another level. Well, then I don't think there's any reason for him not to consider staying longer. But already we're seeing rumours of talks stalling with a Belgian winger guy over the sake of a couple of £100,000. That just rings so true. If Celtic same shit every summer, just like we have the money in the bank. If the guy wants to come, from what I can gather, this guy wants to come. If the guy wants to come, just pay the money and get the guy in. So I honestly feel that Brendan will be looking at this year the same as he did this time last year, to see if we can make progress in Europe. And we made fantastic progress last year. We just came up short with a last-minute goal against Bayern Munich. But we gave a really good account of ourselves in the original group games, and then in the knockout stages. So that was a sign of, for the first time in a number of years, it was a sign of real concrete progress beyond Christmas into the new year. So I have no doubt that Brendan will be looking at a particular type of player, Scott. He's bound to have at least 3 or 4, possibly more, but he'll be looking at least 3 or 4. And we've signed young lads in the past, who are there to develop. I think Brendan will be looking at 3 or 4 players who are going to come in and actually be first team ready players. That's what he wants. He wants to, and that's what he needs to take us to that next level. We've all seen the list of players, and that's, there are quite a number of them. You've got Stephen Welsh, you've got Nawrocki, there's maybe what the Yang could be in there as well, Lewis Palma. There's probably a group of about maybe 10 players altogether. And I have no doubt that Brendan will be looking at that thing. And if I could shed those 10 players and even bring in 5 top quality first team ready players, that would be absolutely fantastic for us. That'd be a fantastic turnaround. You know, these guys, there's a lot of these guys on the fringes of things that are, you know, it's just not going to happen for them at Celtic. It's as simple as that. You know, so the sooner people realise that and wake up and to that fact, like Lewis Palmer, not in a million. Lewis Palmer's not a Celtic player, never will be. So that's, I think Brendan could look at that. He's probably looking at those. There's probably 8 to 10 players there. If we could move those guys out, get them off the wage bill, and bring in 4 or 5 top players to replace them, you know. And when I say top players, I'm talking about, you know, guys that are ready to go straight into the first team. You know, we're still light at the back. We're still definitely light at the back for a partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers. You know, we could probably do with another centre half to take the strain off Cameron Carter-Vickers as well, so that he doesn't have to play so many games. We need some kind of a backup for the left back situation. I still maintain we need a couple of players in the midfield, and we definitely need another striker. So I have no doubt that Brendan is looking at more Arnie Engels type players than development players. He's looking at the board, investing a right few quid this summer, and pushing the boat out a wee bit, not breaking the bank, but pushing the boat out a wee bit farther, just to see if we can maybe move the thing a wee bit further on again next year in Europe as well. So I honestly think, Scott, for me, I said it last year, I think whether Brendan decides to go beyond this incoming season, I think a lot of that the decision making process that he's thinking about, a lot of that will come down to how much the Celtic board get him the players he wants this summer.
Aye, spot on, mate. Andy, do you agree with Paddy that, you know, if the board back him this year, he will stay? Or are you with Chris Sutton? He thinks that, you know, that this is basically he's going to do his year and do what he said he was going to do and leave?
Well, I think the signs are there that the board are backing him at the moment. You know, you look at the players that have been linked and you think, obviously Tisdale's there, and apparently he's not started work until January there. So if the system's working correctly, the manager's letting Tisdale know what kind of player he's looking for. He's going out, he's searching for them, and everything's all analytics now, isn't it? So it's all in computer systems and you know, attributes of players, and then it pumps out the matches that you're looking for, and then you go looking for them. You get the eye test for them, actually watching them in person. So you'd imagine that if Celtic are down that road already, quite close to finalising deals, that Brendan has spoke to Tisdale, and Tisdale was went and looked, and he's then come back and says, what about him? And he's went, aye, I'm up for that. I'd imagine that's the way it works. We don't actually know.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I imagine that he is actually getting backed. It's hard to tell how much he's going to get backed until the players are actually in. This is all speculation at this point, so nothing's really been confirmed with the club. You know, you've got a boy for Fulham as well. There's question marks there whether that's going to be, he's going to be coming in as a first team player. He's not even played a first team game for Fulham. So, but the word is that he's going to be around about the first team squad. So, and then you've got the boy English for Morton. He's going right into the B squad. So they're thinking of the future, which is a bit of a detriment to your youth system when you're bringing in youth, you know, and you go, well, how's there no better? How have we no already got better? How have we no produced them through the system and coached them and got them improving enough to that you don't need to bring in players at that level? You know, you should be producing them through your own system, your own youth system. I want to see improvement there with Celtic as well. It's not about, you know, and spending loads of money. I totally understand that actually is at that stage because of their whole kind of marketing boy with buying in players, selling them with selling clauses and making a lot of money. But you can do that with your own players as well. If they're coached properly and they come through the system properly, you're not having to pay any transfer fee to bring them in. They're there. So anything, if you are kind of pushing them on after that, is pure profit. We need to get that side right. But this isn't the whole youth thing isn't going to happen within a season or two. You know, you need to, hopefully the work's been done in the background years back, and we will eventually start seeing better quality community our youth system. We all like to see a wee kind of marquee signing now and again. I don't think that's really going to happen at Celtic, so it's going to be younger players at a kind of reasonable price, develop them, and we all know what Rodgers can do with players. He actually improves them. So then it comes down to the whole point of is that enough for Rodgers to stay? I think it's going to be interesting. This is last season. I think it's going to be interesting how we go on in Europe as well. So we're looking to take that next step again. And I think he'll be that could sway either way. Is he going to get the quality in enough to actually do any kind of damage in the Champions League? I think domestically, not that you think you're just going to sweep teams away. It's not as easy as that. But we're pretty comfortable in that position when it comes to domestic football. I think European football's let us down. I think he wants to improve his record in Europe. And he needs the quality of players to do that. Can you do that by bringing in kind of project players or seen as project players? It then takes a couple of years to really get the benefit of that. And then, ironically enough, that's when they're getting picked up and sold. And, then you're starting again. It's a whole process. So it's if Rodgers does stay, I've got every confidence that he will improve players, no matter what kind of level they're at, to come in and improve them. But I want to see better performances. I think we've done no bad last season in Europe compared to how we were in the past. Certainly been an improvement. But I'm kind of on the fence whether he'll stay or no. I really don't know. I don't know. He says, but when he first came in, he says, I'm going to be here for the 3 years. And we know that's going to happen. So that was to right or wrong. We know that now. Whether he's going to then improve upon that, I think we'll just need to wait and see. But if any talks are in the background, they should be happening now, obviously. So, but you don't really hear anything. You don't, usually we'd hear a wee kind of inkling that something's happening in the background. Whether Brendan's just putting that off. Maybe he wants more time to think about it and really make sure he's doing the right thing. But I think it's just a case of wait and see.
Yep. So Kaiser, Andy's sitting on the fence. Paddy thinks he's going to stay, and Chris Sutton thinks he's for the Offski. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I think he's going to stay as well. I think being on the outside and looking in when Ange Postecoglou came in, pardon me, and the kind of praise that Ange was getting in such high regard Ange was being held in. I think Brendan looked at that from the outside and thought, that should have been me. That's why he came back with this plan of incremental improvements in Europe. So he's going to the board, of course, and he's asking for the players that he wants. When he's asking for these players, top-class players don't move in an instant. Was it Wirtz who just went to Liverpool? And that was a transfer saga. It took weeks and weeks and weeks. So I think Brendan's moving. I think the machine's moving behind the scenes to make this happen. I see Brendan signing another deal and staying on. I see him staying longer than another 3 years anyway. I think if he's looking at marks on the wall or marks on the bedpost, he's got to be looking at 10 in a row and beating the 9. He's got to be looking at incremental changes year on year. Revolutionising the youth system for me at Celtic is a must. I've said that before and I'll say it again. Celtic should be buying a team like Shamrock Rovers and using them, basically sending all our B team players over there, or whatever team making access in the League of Ireland, buying them, sending
even
all
like Inverness Carly Thistle. Would there be
even one,
I'm not sure how
it works
legality-wise we'd be in the same country, but it'd be an ideal situation. Sorry, Kaiser.
Yeah, no problem, Andy, mate. I see us having a team in North America, a team in Australia, everywhere where we have a large population of Celtic fans. You can see where the CSCs are all around the world. I think we've got the most CSCs of any football team in the entire world. Mm-hmm. So the support is there. If you field of dreams in it, if you build it, they will come. I think Brendan Rodgers has got to be looking at this and thinking, I'm just going to take my time. I'm going to see how the board are going to back us. And even if he is going to leave, when he left the last time, he had signed a new deal and he left to the tune of £10 million. He brought money into the club while he was gone. He didn't just drop he kind of dropped his like a hot potato and went, but he still brought money in for him going. He's not the kind of guy who would just finish out this 3 years, I think, and then just walk away. He's like me. He's an absolute egomaniac. And the thought of him having a Brendan Rodgers statue with big shiny teeth on the Celtic way, I think he'd love that. I think he'd absolutely love that.
It'd be about that size.
Aye, it'd be a tiny one. Just on the steps. A wee bronze Brendan.
A gnome. A wee garden gnome.
That's what I think, Henny. That's what I think anyway, lads. I think But for all you can look at it one way and think, oh, it's this year-on-year game of tic-tac-toe with Brendan going to sign a new deal. Are the board going to back him? Are they going to invest the correct amount of money? Are they penny pinching? We've got millions in the bank. But at the end of the day, we just need to wait and see what happens. I honestly think Brendan will sign on and he'll pen at least a 2-year extension before we go into this season, I think. And it'll be one of the biggest signings. And then we'll crack on with a few players. It'll get really exciting and this channel will really ramp up as it goes. I'm really looking forward to it.
Aye, bang on, lads, bang on. So a split panel there, really. Good. I personally don't think he's going to stay. I think that we know he's fluent in Spanish, so I think he might look at a wee job over here to broaden his horizons a wee bit. I don't think he gets one of the top jobs done in England, but, you know, with the money that's getting bandied about down there, you know, Birmingham City would be a good job for him now, you know, with the amount of money that they're getting these days as well. And that's who we're moving on to next, because they are being linked with a former striker of ours who's been linked with us as well, coming back. Kyogo is being linked with a move to Birmingham City, Paddy. We do know that his mate Awata is there, who did end up getting Player of the Year from last season. They're now in the Championship in England after coming up from League One. And Chris Davis is also the manager, who was at Celtic as the assistant to Brendan and Ange, I believe he was. Chris Davis, he's done a brilliant job down there. What do you make of that? Do you think it'd be a good move for Kyogo going there, or is he a guy you'd like to see back at Celtic?
Oh, well, we asked the question a couple of weeks ago, Scott, about him, you know, when, you know, yes, the Kyogo of these first 2 seasons, when he came under Ange, you would have him back in a heartbeat, but, you know, we talked about it in the group chat, you know, and I don't think the last year that Kyogo was there, he was anywhere close to the player that he was, you know, and I just feel we got Kyogo at the most opportune time of his career, and we benefited from Kyogo and his goals the way that nobody else will. It would be a decent enough move for me. The wee man needs to go somewhere where he's playing. He's not getting a kick at Rennes at all, which is not going to do him any good. But you know, the thing that's hanging over him too, and it will in any transfer, like he still hasn't addressed this shoulder problem, which is going to need. It's well documented that his shoulder needs surgery, and they reckon that the healing time for that's going to be 4 months. You know, so he needs something. He needs that sorted. I mean, that should have been done. They should have had that done. So, it's a tough one, Scott. It is a tough one because we're not talking about the same player. You know, I spoke to Michelle about him last week, and I said to Michelle about him. You know, when you think of Kyogo and Lila Bada in Ange's first season, just think about the first 6, 8, 10 games that he played. The wee man was on fire, you know, and even for that whole first season and the second season, when you think of his contribution both at home and in Europe, the wee man was on fire, as on a par with anybody in Europe. His movement, his quality, his finishing, you know, it was a fantastic wee player for us, and you know, so much so that we actually had the debate: was he the best striker since Henrik Larsson? And I think we all agreed that he was. You know, so you know, you're not getting like for like, Scott. It's very, very difficult to compare. You know, there's, you know, another season has passed, and he's been kicking his heels in France. But you know, for him personally, he really does need to get back. He needs to get back playing. It was just unfortunate for him. We talked about it the other night. He was under severe pressure from the Japanese national manager Kyogo. If you watch the documentary that he did when he was in Glasgow, his dream was to play for Japan at the World Cup. That was his dream as a player. You know, so he came to Glasgow. He achieved fantastic success with Celtic. 2 trophies in his first year, 3 in his second. He scored the winner in the League Cup final against Hibs in his first season. Just magical times for him. And it was only natural that he's looking at the next week. How can I better this? What can I do now to, you know, I want to be able to tell my children and grandchildren that I played in the World Cup for Japan. He was so bitterly disappointed to be left out of that squad for the World Cup. And the manager told him that the only way you're going to get picked for this World Cup squad is if you're playing in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. So England, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, that you're going to have to go So the wee man's head was turned by that. Head was turned by that. He desperately, he has a dream of representing Japan in the World Cup, and you can't knock that for him. That's what he feels he wants to do. So it just shows you that sometimes, you get a move and you think it's going to be the answer to your problems, but it's just been a nightmare for him. I know definitely not, Scott. I said when we were asked about it a couple of weeks ago, if we were getting the Kyogo of 2 years, 3 years ago back, yes, I would take him in a heartbeat, but not at the minute. He's not the same player, and will he ever be the same player again? I would hazard a guess, maybe not. As I say, I spoke to both Michelle and Jerry, and I think I spoke to Andy about it as well. Sometimes a player comes in and he has fire in his belly, and that's enough to stimulate them and turn them into a player that maybe you've never seen before. And as I say, the Kyogo of the first couple of seasons under Ange was sensational. He just what he gave us, the goals against Rangers, the goals in cup finals, the goals in Europe. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes then, when you win a few trophies and you've been there, it gets a bit stale. I would just ask you all to take a look at Man City over the last sort of 12 months. The guys that were massive players for them, like Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones, guys that got there, Ilkay Gundogan, those guys all came off the boil a bit, and that's what happens. Sometimes, the success just, you get used to it, and it's very, very difficult to keep that fire in the belly every season. You saw last season, Liverpool had a young, hungry team, hungry for the title, hungry for the Premiership, and they won it at a canter. And that's exactly what's happened. So I just feel that that's what's happened to Kyogo, Scott. I honestly feel that we've had the best of Kyogo. But that being said, I would take nothing away from the wee man. I would love to see him getting a move to somewhere where he's going to be back scoring goals and back playing and enjoying his football. So if it works out for him to go to Birmingham, that would be brilliant for him. But as I say, I'm not sure if it would ever work for him coming back to Glasgow.
Aye, great points, Paddy. Andy, Kyogo, Penelope Pitstop in the comments mentioned it as well. If he's not getting picked for Japan, playing for us, he's not going to get picked for Japan going to Birmingham. But, he's as we know, strikers are only happy when they're scoring goals. I think, like Iwata, he would certainly flourish in that championship and score a barrel load for them. But would you take him back at Celtic, or would you like to see him go to Birmingham and get back on the goal trail again?
I've already said that I want to have Kyogo back, and nothing against him, but he's kind of made his decision and he's decided to go. I just find it laughable that this Japan, and I don't know how much I believe this story, to be quite honest with you, but you need to leave to get international football. I don't quite believe that. This is a man who was absolutely battering the goals in for Celtic for the majority of the time he was here. I know towards the end it wasn't so good. He had that kind of wee barren spell, I would say. But the Japan manager saying that he's not going to get a game for Japan if he plays in Scotland is an absolute joke. We were in the Champions League, so you can't get bigger club football than that level, Champions League. And he decided to leave a team in the Champions League to go to a team like Rennes. Very obscure decision when that was made. It was baffling to me. And by the way, it was a very crucial time for us as well, because it was just before we could have done with him in that Aston Villa game. It might have turned out different, it might have not, but we'll never know. So I think he was looking for a move. I think he was fed up in Scotland. I've got to be honest with you. I think this whole international thing's just a smokescreen. If that was the case, if you're Kyogo and you're getting told by a Japan manager, leave Scotland or you're not going to get in the Japan team, then all you need to do is point your finger at Hatate and point your finger at Maeda.
Yep.
Well, there's a man, Maeda, who's first in the team sheet at Celtic and scoring for fun. And even before that, he was playing for Japan all the time. You're getting Hatate that's included in squads as well. So I don't quite believe that is the truth. I think he just wanted it, and he made his bed and he's lying in it. Unfortunately for him. Listen, the Championship's a very, very hard league, and I just don't know if Kyogo's got enough about him to handle because it can be quite physical. It's tough. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of big hefty. I'm not saying it's all Route 1 football. It's no. There's some really gifted players in that league. It's a very hard league to get out of. Every game's a hard game. I think he'll find it tough there, mate. I really do. I don't think he'll do well. I think he's having an absolute nightmare in Rennes. You know, it's just no worth it for him. And again, touching on that injury, it's something else that's no been sorted. And as I said, talking about the physicality side, well, he's just going to get bounced about in that week. I'm sorry. So I if it does happen, I can't see it really working out for him, which is no badness to the guy. But he's gone for Celtic now, and I don't think there was any chance of him coming back to Celtic. I've got to be honest with you. But it was a very strange thing that happened anyway. The whole at the January transfer window, a time when we really needed him, it could have made such a difference. But that's the way it is. We'll just see if it does materialise and he does go to Birmingham City. Obviously, he's got another teammate in that team who has went there and done well. Fair play to him. But we knew he had ability. It's not as if we didn't know it. I thought he'd done well at Celtic. It was just unfortunate that he just didn't seem to be favoured. So obviously I had to go to play his football. But just need to wait and see.
Yeah, guys are very bizarre. I thought this one today, Kyogo to Birmingham. But it does make sense for me, thinking about it. I think he can kiss his Japan career goodbye if he does go. But what do you make of that? Kyogo to Birmingham, or would you like to see him back at Celtic?
I wouldn't like to see him back at Celtic. Any player that leaves and turns their nose up at Celtic, I would never take back, really. I know I have leaned towards accepting back Jota, players like that who have come back, but Jota got a big move and then it fell apart for him when he went away. For me, I know exactly why Kyogo left. I know exactly because I heard from someone within the club. Someone within the club told me months before anybody else that the Japan manager had put pressure on the 3 Japanese players. If they wanted to be selected for the national side, they had to be playing in top 5 leagues. And that was before any transfer speculation or anything broke from anybody. I was told that, knew that. I'm obviously not going to confess who told me because it puts the person at risk who's floating around inside there. At the end of the day, the other 2 players I feel have looked at what's happened to Kyogo and how it's fell apart for him, and they've turned around and went, well, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be playing Champions League football. And Andy's 100% correct. Champions League football should be enough for the Japanese manager to be selecting Kyogo, but it wasn't. And when Kyogo asked why not, we all seen his face on that interview when he was not selected for the Japan national side. We all seen how his heart just sunk right there. Yeah. So he's asked the manager, I've got no doubts, he asked, why not me? And he said, obviously, it's because you're not playing in a top 5 league. It's not, you're not really being provided with a competitive edge that we need domestically. And you're right, Andy, you could point at Daizen Maeda, Rio Hitati and go, well, you're selecting those 2. And you'd say, well, he's playing in midfield in a robust league and the Champions League, and he's playing on the wing for Celtic. So he's not playing as a striker. He's not experiencing the damage that Kyogo's experienced. I think if Kyogo goes to the Championship, he'll get battered about like an absolute pinball. They're all absolute physical monsters. Just one tier down for the Premiership, big bucks wages. They're all looking to get something to prove, and they're not going to let Kyogo get the move and drop on him. It's whether the team plays a system where he can be the focal point. All roads need to lead to Kyogo, like they did for Ange. It was hit the byline and get the ball across the face of goal to Kyogo. Kyogo will finish it. He'll finish non-stop. I think Kyogo's really shat the sheets when he moved to France, and it's his problem to lie in. I wouldn't take him back. I've seen other people in chat mentioning French Eddie as well. I would take French Eddie back in a heartbeat. I would take French Eddie back at Celtic in an absolute heartbeat. I know he's not done much since he left Celtic. He's been down there collecting big wages. But their loss is our gain, in my opinion. And I seen someone else just slightly earlier on in the comments saying you have to look at Brendan's signings. For me, Brendan came in, and as I highlighted the other night when we were talking, I think Brendan took the signings that were on the cards there in his first season. So players like Palmer and that who came in, I think they were highlighted and picked out maybe by the scouting team who were working with Ange, and he allowed that just to go through and bring that in. But I really look at Kasper Schmeichel, Kieran Tierney now as well coming back. We've got Arnott Engels. I think Brendan's signings, for me, when he's been asked to spend, when he's been asked to sniff them, I know, they're dirty pants as well. They're not even clean ones, Carl. They're actually barking ones. I send a couple of pairs over there for a vending machine, mate.
I've got a few of them. I might start up my own vending machine company.
That's that, and the OnlyFans as well, Dad Bod Short Rod. Make sure you check it out, legends. For me, I just think the ship has sailed for Kyogo. We highlighted him, held him up as a hero, especially younger Celtic fans absolutely put him on a pedestal. And it just the way he left as well. They're not even a goodbye messages, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like Jota when he was like, what a fucking ride. It's nothing like that. There was not even a message to the support to say goodbye. For me, I'd let Kyogo rot and get on with what he's done. I actually don't even care what he does with the rest of his career. If he makes the Japan squad for the next World Cup, I couldn't be any less interested in him.
Fair enough. Indeed, we've got 150 people watching us live at the minute. If this is your first time watching this podcast, please subscribe to the channel on our YouTube page. We update the community on that as well quite regularly, so we like to interact with you on the post.
At least we know there's at least 150 people out there that's got as sad a life as us.
Certainly got a sad life for sure. But you join us at a great time. So as Lorna says there, I hit the likes trips, and it certainly helps us out with the algorithm and gets us shared round to more Celtic supporters like yourselves. So the last man standing segment tonight is the number 8 position. Number 8 position, and like I said, we are going to fill that this evening. This is the last man standing 4-Leaf Clover podcast team so far. We have Artur Boruc in goals, Danny McGrain at right back, Kieran Tierney at left back, Virgil van Dijk and Roy Aitken in the middle of defence. Neil Lennon is our number 6, and Jamesy Forrest on Wednesday night got the number 7 jersey. So who is going to be partnering Neil Lennon in the middle of that midfield? We are about to find out. There's no Lisbon Lions in this team. It's just players that we've seen play in our lifetime. So unfortunately, it won't be any of the Lions. But the number 8 jersey, the first two fighting it out for that jersey this evening, Patrick, are Pat McGinley. I believe he was top goal scorer for us in one season in the 90s. Good signing from Hibs. Is up against Beram Kayal. Pat McGinley or Beram Kayal. Let us know in the comments, folks.
Tough one. McGinley was a good signing, Scott. He was a good signing, and we weren't in a particularly great place at the time. Felt sorry for him. Fantastic signing from Hibs, big player for them, and he came through after initially took a wee while to settle in at Celtic, but once he got going, he scored a lot of goals for us and was quite influential. But I just feel Beram Kayal was just on a different level, just a different level of a player. Fantastic engine about him. Just seemed to be more experienced player. Just a leader for Neil Lennon's team. Some of those big games against Rangers, he was absolutely outstanding. Just unfortunate the way it ended for him with the tackle from Lee McCulloch that he never actually really recovered from.
Yeah,
very, very poor tackle from McCulloch. So for me, I'm going to go for Beram Kayal on this one, Scott.
Okay. Andy, it's very close in the comments. I would say it's probably 50-50, to be honest with you. So who are you going for, mate? Pat McGinley or Beram Kayal?
I think this is a close one, Scotty. Pat McGinley was a half decent player. Good signing for Hibs. It was robust. It had a goal on him. But I'm going to agree with Paddy because I think Kayal was technically better. Absolutely tough. McGinley was tough as well, but Kyle was a tough player as well. You know, he could put himself about. And as I said, that injury for elbows, after him was it just wasn't the same, unfortunately. But I thought he was a really good player for Celtic. But I think it is a tight one. But for me, I'm going to go with Kyle on this.
Yeah, I watched Neil Lennon on the Open Goal Sport thing with Cy Ferry, Kaiser, and he said that he always put Kyle and Bruni on different teams every time to watch them go at it. He said he was a fantastic tackler, one of the best he'd seen. Berham Kyle has got the jersey, but are you giving Pat McGinley it, or are you sticking with the lads?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the lads, bro. Kyle, for me, was absolutely fantastic, and I can see why Neil Lennon would put him head-to-head with Bruni and have them two face off against each other. It certainly brought the best out in Scott Brown as well, didn't it, in these seasons? So, for me, Kyle was just a cut above. Excellent player. When he came into Celtic, I was excited about him joining the club as well. And he really had the full makeup of a modern professional. He had the diet, the build, the intelligence. He had it all about him. And if it wasn't for a horrendous tackle from a hammer thrower, an absolute travesty of a player, we could have seen the likes of him for a bit longer, I think. But sticking with Kyle. It was a tight decision, obviously, but you never like to put any Celtic players down because basically they're living or dreaming, the lads. Every one of us dreamed of being a Celtic player.
Yep.
So like any Celtic player, they're living their dreams, so they all get respect from us here.
So Berham Kyle keeps the first run on the number 8 jersey ladder. He's now up against Andy, a guy who was a brilliant player for us, went down to England and captained the club that he left for. And that was Stefan Johansson. Berham Kyle or Stefan Johansson, mate?
Aye. Another good player. Aye. International. I'm going to stick with Kyle here for the jersey. It was a good player, but I'm going to stick with Berham Kyle on this one, mate.
Okay. Kaiser?
Yeah. Johansson, when he came in, I thought, never really heard of him. Bit of a development player when he came into Celtic, but when he came in, he certainly developed here, flourished and blossomed. I thought he did really well. Whether I would take the shirt off Kyle and give it to him, that's a different story. But he certainly continued to grow and develop as a player when he went down south as well. I liked the segment last week, right, where we had a little jostle of opinion. So I'm going to give it to Johansson and see what Paddy has got to say. See if we can get him called names and chat again.
No, I mean, I think that's fair enough. Two totally different players, obviously, again, but it's very difficult to separate them. And Paddy, you have a decision to make yet again. Who are you going for, sir, and why?
Oh, it's a tough one again, Scott. Two very similar players in terms of their career at Celtic and what happened after they came in. I mean, Stefan Johansson was relatively unknown, but he was a trusted lieutenant of Ronnie Deila. And I'm going to go with Stefan Johansson on this one because I just feel his goals tip the scale for him here. Kyle was definitely a very, very good player, but he needed to add a few more goals. But for me, Johansson's threat going forward, like he was very, very impressive with his late runs into the box, and he made those runs ahead of the strikers, and he was brilliant at ghosting into the box, and he scored many vital goals for us. So for me, I'm going to go with Stefan Johansson on this one.
Okay. Stefan Johansson rips the number 8 jersey off of Kyle, who was very popular in the comments, but Stefan Johansson gets the jersey from the lads. So, Kaiser, we're round to you now, sir. And Stefan Johansson is now up against Barry Robson.
That is a tight one. I think Scottish players like Barry Robson have a summer of youth when they hit their 30s. They seem to flourish and really play well. I think we brought him in quite late in his career. I think he was close to 30. Seen it so many times. There was Hartley and other players like that who came in as well, who also had a second summer. I think Scottish players, a lot of them, I should say, seem to experience that second summer, that second youth. Rather than buying a motorbike in their midlife crisis, they suddenly become good at football. They turn the corner and really, really shine. For me, I'm going to go. It's a tough one, very tough. But yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Barry Robson. I think like what he brought, what he added, the ability he had as well, just ever so slightly, just tips the scales for me. Stands out in my memory in some of his performances in the games he played. And yeah, a Celtic man as well. We love the club as well.
Okay, mate. So very 50-50 this one, Paddy, in the comments. Are you going for Stefan Johansson or does Barry Robson take the jersey off him?
No, I'm going to stick with Stefan Johansson and give Andy a job. Love Barry Robson, don't get me wrong. Wonderful player for Celtic.
Yeah.
You know, we got him in the twilight of his career and it was a brilliant move for him. Been a Celtic fan all his life, but he applied his trade elsewhere. But to get a move at that time of his career, and you know, you just saw him the opening minutes of that Rangers game that night, the midweek game, where he just crashed into one of the Rangers players. You know, that just summed him up. Although with VAR now, he'd probably be off the park for that. But wonderful commitment. Another guy, fantastic left foot. And stuff like that. Good player under pressure. Good player when taking penalties. He's my kind of penalty taker. The way that he just stepped up and slammed the ball.
Yeah, places.
But for me, it's just Stefan Johansson just tips it because he was more. Stefan Johansson was more. He was more important cog in the wheel than Barry Robson was at the time he was there. So I'm going to stick with Stefan Johansson on this one.
Okay, mate. So Andy, this is why I love this game, mate. You have got a decision to make, sir. Are you going for Stefan Johansson or are you going for Barry Robson?
I'm going to go with Barry Robson. I think Barry Robson, a lot of people could say he wasn't a great player. No, I actually didn't know he was a Celtic fan. I thought he was an Aberdeen fan. So I was surprised to hear that. I never knew that. I think it was a no-nonsense player. Yeah. Obviously, had a pretty good ability as well. And as Kaiser says, it was pretty late on in his career. Quite a good time for Celtic as well. Played in some massive games. And obviously that Rangers game as well. Certainly put his marker down on that. Love to see that. You just don't see it now. You simply can't get away with stuff like that. But that was always, when you talk about ex-players talking about these games, saying that you had to put your marker down right for the beginning. He done that, scored in some big games, put in some really good performances. And for me, he takes a jersey off of Johansson. And nothing against Johansson, he obviously was a good player, but I'm going to go with Robson on this. Okay,
pal. So Barry Robson now has the number 8 jersey. He's now up against a player, Paddy, who was only with us for 6 months, but he was world class in his day. He gets an honourable mention, obviously, because of the player that he was, making his living as a pundit, a very good pundit these days. We spoke about him earlier, he got mentioned. Barry Robson is now up against Roy Keane.
For me, it's an easy one, Scott. To be honest, it might not be easy for you guys, but you aren't going to be on the boat in about 6 weeks' time. I am. So, no, listen, Roy Keane, I know we've talked about longevity and stuff like that, but what a player. What a player. An absolute legend. Maybe not a Celtic legend, but, he demonstrated very, very aptly in a couple of games, just his qualities. And to be fair, we were getting him when he was on the downslope of his career, but still, what a player. I'll take you back to the game against Rangers at Ibrox, the
Aye.
Maciej Zuraski goal. We beat them 1-0. Neil Lennon and Roy Keane were our two midfielders, just the way they are at the minute. They're going to be if you give them the jersey. And Barry Ferguson, one or two others, they never got a sniff. They absolutely never got a sniff. The two of them put on a masterclass of how to defend a 1-0 lead. Just cut Rangers off at source, restricted them to shooting from 25, 30 yards out. They just put on an absolute masterclass. So listen, Barry Robson's attitude was fantastic. He was a brilliant player for us when he came in, but there's no comparison, Scott, for me. Roy Keane is an absolute legend. So I'm going to go for Roy Keane.
Okay. So, Andy, does Roy Keane get the number 8 jersey off Barry Robson for you, or are you sticking with Barry?
I love Roy Keane. He reminds me a wee bit, not as a football player, but his attitude towards people in life, I totally get it. It must be an age thing. You get a certain age where your filter gets very, very thin, and you look at life a wee bit differently. Absolutely nothing to do with him being a player. I think we got Roy Keane, and he's openly admitted it himself. It was done. Yeah. Roy Keane was done, and he was actually embarrassed that he came up and actually took a wage off us, So we certainly didn't see anywhere near the best of Roy Keane. I love him as a player. He was a world-class player, and you just need to think back for Manchester United and performances, especially that semi-final, where he knew he wasn't playing in the final, and he still played that game as if he was going to be playing in the final if they go there. His commitment as a team player is unrivaled. I think, a hard player, but a very gifted player as well. And Paddy's absolutely right about Roy Keane. The games against Rangers, even if you go back and look at YouTube, he absolutely bossed it. Bossed it. And that's him with no pace. He was knackered. He was done. And it was so easy for him. Unfortunately, he had that terrible start against Clyde. It wasn't a great kind of entrance into his Celtic career. But Robson, again, it's very hard this, isn't it? Because if you go against Keane, he's an absolute legend, but he wasn't a legend for us. Still very gifted. It's a natural ability he had, but everything had left him, his fitness, everything else, he wasn't totally fit. But I'm going to go with Keane. I'm going to go with Keane because I think that it's just his whole stature, the fact that we actually signed him, and I know he was done, but just the whole razzmatazz round about it and all that, it was unbelievable that he actually, just to see him in a Celtic tap, and playing in games like that against them. And so, although we didn't see the best, I think I'm going to go with Keane, and quite rightly so. I think nothing against Robson, good player, robust, as I said. Quite similar attitudes, actually. But Roy Keane was world class.
Okay. I think you've done a wee bit of a Nakamura moment there. I thought you done a Paddy there, mate. I thought you were going for
I'm taking the Paddy trophy, mate. I'm taking the Paddy trophy there.
You reeled us all in there, mate. You reeled us all in. Kaiser, Roy Keane has the number 8 jersey, mate, but who are you picking and why?
Like, starting their careers side by side and looking at both their careers, clearly Roy Keane, you're like, that's the obvious choice. But Andy also hit the nail on the head as well. Legend of the game, just not for us. By the time he came up here, he was spent, knackered, no pace whatsoever. Seen Milk turn faster than the freezer at sometimes, especially that game against Clyde as well, Andy. But I would have went Barry Robson. So I'm gutted. I thought Andy was going to go Robbo and then I was going to get the deciding vote. But no. Baldy trucker bastard. Get the comments and they'll get them slated. I would have went Robbo, to be honest with you, mate. But Keane's there.
Yeah,
he's
make it easy for him.
Fantastic career. There you go. He's put his day in Edna's on. They get wee stars on the side of him, man. There looks like wee stars.
I'll get the way into that demo, and she's got the wee things that make bangles now. I'll get her to stick something on there.
So Roy Keane has the jersey, Andy, and he's now up against somebody that was mentioned a couple of minutes ago in the chat. He's unfortunately no longer with us, but he was a great player for us when we signed him as a young man. So Roy Keane is now up against Phil O'Donnell.
Oh,
Andy.
Oh, me? Sorry, mate. Caught me off guard there. If Barry Robson had went through rather than Roy Keane, I'd be picking Phil O'Donnell. And I'm going to pick Phil O'Donnell again. And it might be a total contradiction of what I've just said about Keane and the reasons why I picked Keane or Robson, but Phil O'Donnell was an absolute engine.
Racehorse.
And he's, just a fantastic signing for us. Obviously, it's very sad what happened to him, you know, when he ended up back at Motherwell and up at Tannadice that night or that day. Just unbelievable. And we had Simon on the show talking about Phil O'Donnell, the two of them had the same agent, I had, didn't they? Actually, they ended up at Sheffield Wednesday. Very pally.
Best pals, aye.
Best pals, aye, and he's obviously still in heavy contact with his family and his kids, not who are all grown up. But anyway, this is totally a wee half of what we're talking about. I just think he's a very gifted player for Celtic. Really played at a time in Celtic when we played some really exciting football as well. You know, some of the football under Burns was just unbelievable and just really unfortunate. So Phil O'Donnell for me takes a jersey off of Keane, and it probably sounds ridiculous after what I've just said about Keane, but it's O'Donnell for me.
No, it certainly doesn't, mate. It's all about opinions, this segment, and totally respect what you said, mate. So, Kaiser, Roy Keane or Phil O'Donnell, who gets the number 8 jersey for you?
Yeah, very, very easy decision for me here, lads. I know Keano's a legend elsewhere and not up here, but for me, it's Phil O'Donnell all day long. One of the first players I remember as a young man, my father says to me, he's a talismanic player. He's a talisman. And I was like, what does that mean? I didn't know what the word meant. I was that young. And he says, whenever he plays for Celtic, we never lose. He's just that kind of player, absolute racehorse, as he says. The engine on the guy, he could just run and run and run. Fantastic player. And as Andy said as well, sad story what ended up happening to him in his career, finishing out. See all those RIP and that in the chat for Phil O'Donnell as well, a couple of them in there. But yeah, for me, Phil O'Donnell all day long. So sorry, Paddy, to make it. It'll be easier for you getting on the boat. It wasn't your decision, mate, but Keano's out.
Aye, if MD Stener's watching this, it's nothing to do with Paddy, okay? He's been outnumbered. So, Paddy, are you sticking with Roy Keane, mate, or are you giving it to Uncle Phil?
That's a hard one, Scott. And, you know, it's tough because, you know, we're trying to, what we'll do at the end of this, we'll look back at the end of this and we'll have our 11, you know, and you'll be looking at, you know, what those players were like in their heyday. So you're not going to be judging Roy Keane just on what he did with Celtic. You're going to be judging Roy Keane as a player. So, you know what? It's immaterial. But purely out of respect, you know, I would have went for Phil O'Donnell just out of respect for him, because he offered Celtic much more than Roy did. As I say, at that stage, we got Roy at the end of his career. Phil O'Donnell came in as one of Tommy Burns' signings. You know, and I remember him scoring. I think he scored 2 goals in his debut at Firhill against Partick, and he just brought that. He brought that energy. He brought goals. He brought assists. You know, and when you think of some of the, you know, the teams that he played with brilliant players. You know, like, you know, when you think of the day we beat Rangers 5-1 at Celtic Park. You know, when he set up goals for Henrik Larsson and, you know, Mark Burchill and. So I think it's purely as a mark of respect for Phil O'Donnell, I'm going to go for Phil O'Donnell in this one.
Okay. Phil O'Donnell takes the number 8 jersey off Roy Keane for Celtic for the 4 Leaf Clover podcast, number 8. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 number 8s left. And Kaiser, I wish I'd done this better and landed on Paddy first for this one, but Phil O'Donnell is up against Arnie Engels.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Arnie Engels, right, legends? I've said it. He's gets criticised and whatnot. I think he's an absolute Lamborghini of a player. It's not his fault that we're using a Lamborghini to plough fields in Scotland. I think his quality will really shine through when he plays in Europe, and I'm expecting him to have a massive season this season. But I just can't see beyond Phil O'Donnell here. He retains the jersey for me. It's not only a mark of respect, but just for what he's done, what he was to the club. As Paddy alluded to there, and Tommy Burns' side as well, O'Donnell keeps the jersey, certainly at this stage anyway. We might revisit this in a few years, and Engels might have a late protest to get that jersey back. I certainly hope that he can ascend to be that kind of player. But yeah, for me, Phil O'Donnell keeps that jersey.
Okay. I don't think there's one person that's picked Engels. But Paddy, are you taking the Arnie Engels posters off the wall this evening, or are you keeping them up? Who are you picking for that number 8 jersey, sir?
Well, you all know my view on Arnie Engels. I think he's been sensational for us. I think the guy has absolutely everything that you would want in the modern midfield player. You know, he's got size, he's got stature, he's got both feet, left foot, right foot. He can score goals, he can defend. Maybe needs to do a bit of work on certain aspects of his game, but I think Arnie Engels will turn out to be money well spent when the time comes. But for tonight's show, I have to go with Phil O'Donnell. Phil was a more rounded player than Arnie is at the minute. Arnie will get there. There's no doubt about that. I think he'll prove to be a sensational bit of business for us in the years to come. But you know, if Arnie Engels could become the player that Phil O'Donnell was, we will be on a real winner. So just for his overall influence in the team, the kind of a lad that he was, just what happened to him was absolutely tragic. But you can't take away from the guy's ability, and you need to take the sentiment out of it as well. But as I say, I would be hoping then maybe this time next year we'll be talking about Arnie Engels, being the player that Phil O'Donnell was, or a similar type player to Phil O'Donnell. So for me, it's Phil O'Donnell.
Okay, mate. So Andy, Phil O'Donnell keeps the jersey, but are you making a case for Arnie Engels?
No, I'm going to stick with Phil O'Donnell. I totally agree. Engels is definitely a talented player, but he's still a work in progress. Remember, he's just finished his first season. He's came for a pretty kind of no irrelevant club, but a pretty kind of low standard a club. To come to us, and it's a big step for a player like that to come in, play, basically expected to win every game, and not just that, but play well every game and contribute in every game. So it's a lot of pressure for a young player. We've spoken about this before, saying it, we will probably see the best Engels at the start of this season or midway through the season. We'll start to see a major development with him because the raw talent is certainly there. I think he's had a reasonable season. I'm not 100% convinced with his performances this season, but you can see the quality there that there's a reason why we spent so much money on him. But I'm going to go with O'Donnell because simply longevity and he'd already proven. The proof is in the pudding there. With what Phil O'Donnell done. With Engels, it's still potential for me. So it's quite a difficult one to judge until they're at the same kind of levels in their career. So I think Engels is one for the future, but Phil keeps the jersey for me here.
Okay, so Phil O'Donnell keeps the number 8 jersey for now. There is 3 more number 8s that he has to try and fend off, and we are back to our Paddy, I believe. So Phil O'Donnell is now up against this guy.
Jeff, don't pick Jeff.
Just to go back to the Phil O'Donnell one before we start on this one, Scott. I slated Chris Boyd for not being able to put his bias to one side. So you all know exactly. You've just seen an example of me. I'm just giving an honest opinion. and I'm not basing it on anything else other than that. So you know how much I rate Arnie Engels, but sometimes you have to put your personal feelings aside and pick the right man. That's why I decided to go for Phil over Arnie Engels. So I don't want to be being accused of what Chris Boyd does. So listen, you know what? Two players that will go down in Celtic history without a doubt. Obviously Phil, because of his contribution, but obviously what happened and the way his career ended and the way his life was snatched away from him. But for me, there's no comparison really for what they achieved on the pitch. Scott Brown will still be talking about Scott Brown in 100 years time. He just lifted us up, another level under Brendan Rodgers first time around. Probably at that time, Scott Brown was probably drifting around after Ronnie Dyla. He maybe even could have gone. And would anybody have, really paid much attention at the time? He was kind of drifting to obscurity at the time, but Brendan came in and absolutely transformed him and developed him into one of the best midfielders that we've ever had. And he also picked up, leadership skills and stuff that we didn't even realize he had. The guy became such an important player for us. And if you want any confirmation that, you just need to ask Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers will tell you how important Scott Brown was to him in his first spell. He was absolutely massive. He'll tell you that he was his lieutenant on the field. Brendan's orders, Brendan's tactics were passed to the team and carried out by Scott Brown. And if anybody wasn't doing what Brendan asked, they were getting a rocket from Scott Brown. Just his entire Celtic career. And as I say, Phil O'Donnell, I love him to bits. It's still your blood still runs cold to this day when you think about it or you watch the videos back and stuff. It just is absolutely horrendous what happened to that guy. But for me, it's Scott Brown.
Okay, mate. Andy, Scott Brown or Phil O'Donnell, mate, and why?
Scott Brown turned out to be an inspirational captain. Solid, run through a brick wall for the team. Absolute legendary status with Celtic. And actually, as a young player at Hibs, was a winger. Very nippy player, tricky player. And somebody I hated when he was at Hibs. He was one of the players that you just didn't like. In fact, I think he went head-to-head against Lenny, didn't he?
Yeah, more than one occasion, Andy. Yeah.
If you could actually look into the future at that point and see where he would be as a Celtic player and what he's looked at now, you couldn't see it happening. I obviously taking the armband. Brendan done a lot of work with him, but he was a good player before that. But he changed into a different player, didn't he? He was a midfield general. He really bossed the middle of that park, and he pulled the rest of the team with him. Very, very inspirational. Brownie's going to be doing as an absolute legend at the club. And nothing against Phil O'Donnell. He'll always have that kind of legend status. And a lot of that is down to probably not just what he done, but the way, sadly, his life ended, on a football park, which is absolutely heartbreaking. But for me, it's actually quite easy to go with Brownie. I think any rational-minded person would do the same as well. The evidence is there, and he is a true legend of our football club, and somebody that at the end up, we were really thankful that he spent so long with us and gave us so much of his career as well. Because I think, he had chances to go down south and stuff like that, and actually didn't go, so he was somebody... I think he's spoke about it in the past, saying I was happy here. I'm here. I'm winning trophies. It's a cracking club to be at. It's a worldwide fan base, huge club. So he was happy at Celtic, and he is and always will be a true legend of our club. So Brownie gets the jersey for me.
Yeah, and Kaiser is, I don't think Andy's going to grudge Scott Brown the jersey. Phil O'Donnell was a racehorse of a player. There's no doubt about that. Great young signing for us. Very much in the mould of Arnie Engels. So Scott Brown now has a jersey. But just give us your opinion, mate. Who would you have picked and why?
Yeah, I would have went. It's really like not to be offensive to followed on or anything, but the way his life ended and stuff, absolute tragedy, and that's why Celtic fans, as well as his playing ability and his performances for the club, will always remember him. He's, and as I say, as my mum and dad described him as a talismanic player, and it's the only player I've ever really heard described as that. Scott Brown, iconic. Getting off the bus in Russia with no top on and his sunglasses, taking outside Ibrox and people trying to talk about his sister who had passed away.
Yeah.
To the picture that you see there with Juff, where he stands in his face after he scores and he goes, well, what about that then? What about that? What about that? Yeah, well, I loved that. Loved every minute of Bruni. I can understand absolute polarising figure, and I understand how much the Seth Covians hate him, how much they loathe the very sight of him. They still talk about him to this day. Never mind us talking about him. They'll still be talking about him in 100 years. Absolutely amazing player. And yes, I would have went with Bruni as well. I think the guys are spot on, and I think 99.9% of the chat there as well went for Bruni. So all respect to Phil O'Donnell, never be forgotten. Iconic player for Celtic, and Paddy was right as well. Sometimes you need to take a bit of the sentimental. I can't get that word out now. Sentimentality. Fuck it, I'm leaving it. You need to take that out and make a decision. It's just not coming out, mate. I tried to say it 3 times there and it's not coming out.
I don't want to, we know what you meant. We know what you meant.
Yeah.
So Scott Brown has got the jersey, and who am I on to now? Is it Andy? We're back to Andy again.
Andy,
Paddy, I think it's Paddy.
Oh, it is Paddy. Aye, it is Paddy. You're right. You're actually right. So Scott Brown has 2 people to try and keep that number 8 jersey off now. And this is a debate that gets talked about many. You stay there, Andy. You still try to run it.
I'm all right. I'm not going anywhere.
Scott Brown is now up against Paddy, Callum McGregor.
Oh, that is a tough one. Oh dear. I'm glad I don't have the cast. I'm glad I don't have the casting vote on this one. But both guys will absolutely be. They'll be talked about as absolute legends of this football club whenever they're finished. Their contribution, their leadership, their intensity, their drive, very similar outlook on the game. They're just a leading by example. They're they're very, very similar in that there. But I think I'm going to go with Calmac on this one, Scott. And the reason is purely and simply because I think Calmac he'll go down as having won more trophies than Scott Brown by the time he's finished. Callum has no notion of settling down or slowing down in the meantime. So the fact that he's still our leader on the park at the minute, and he will be, could Callum McGregor be a future Europa League winner and captain for Celtic? I would hazard a guess there's a fair chance he could. You know what I mean? There's no reason why we couldn't compete in that league the way other teams have done. So I could see Calmac, finishing off his career with something sensational like that. So it's just going to tip the scales in Callum's favour, the fact that he's still plying his trade and he's still doing what we love. And the other thing that separates him from Scott for me is, as I've always said, Scott Brown just didn't score enough goals. If he could have added another half a dozen or 8 goals to his total every season, he would have been genuinely world class. But I think Callum's goal production just swings it for him as well. So I'm going to go with Callum on this one.
Okay, mate. I don't think I've ever seen the comments, Andy, so 50-50 in my life. And it is probably one of the toughest ever debates about Celtic players that's spoke about on podcasts everywhere. But we have to come to some sort of decision here. Calmac has got the jersey just now, but does Bruni take it off him for you?
The reason why it's so split is because exactly that is so close to call. I think they're 2 very different types of players, even different personalities to judge them on. Paddy's spot on when it comes to goals. He's Calmack is way done with some cracking goals for Celtic, and a great point that Bruni didn't score a lot of goals. So Calmack's get one out of him on that. I think they're two totally different captains as well. Bruni is very much a motivational captain. To be fair to Calmack, he's got that in him as well, but I think he's more a kind of would-be example, as in his play. You know, I think he's technically more gifted than Brown, or how Brown ended up. Bruni was more a blood and guts type captain. You know, he put himself in front of everybody else to go to battle. And I'm not saying Calmack is any kind of doesn't shy away, or does shy away from anything, sorry. But it shows that inspiration with his play, you know, and his goals and his contribution into the team and the way we play. He's almost like a conductor, I think, at times, you know, when he slings the ball about, he's actually got very good vision for passes and stuff like that, and he's absolutely committed to follow that up, not just play a pass and then let everybody else do the work. He'll play a pass and then he'll follow it up, and that's how he's always there to kind of pick up the ball on the outside of the box and score some of the goals he scored. It's really, this is a gut wrencher, this one. It's very, very difficult. And I've not even made my mind up yet. I'm trying to still suss it out in my head. Jeez, oh man. I think I'm going to go with Calmack on this. And I feel dirty saying that, because I loved Bruni as a captain and a leader. Very inspirational, as I said. But obviously, when it comes to trophy count and all that, Calmack's ahead there and could go even further. It is more likely that he is. Just when Paddy spoke about the Europa League there, as much as I'd want to see he's won a European trophy again, I don't want it to be the Europa League, because it means we're not in the Champions League. So it means we've failed somewhere. So I totally get that. I definitely have heard the kind of parachute thing where you drop down into that. That's gone now. So I definitely want the Champions League football for us for as long as we possibly can. But I'm going to go with Calmack on this.
Aye, that's you. You're on Lorna's Christmas card list now, mate, for sure. She told us in the Discord that it was...
No, it's really difficult. It's difficult, yeah.
Aye, it's one of them. It's a coin toss. A coin toss. Aye, it's just one of the things, you know, and it gets debated by Celtic fans forever. Kaiser, Scott Brown or Callum McGregor for you for the jersey? Callum McGregor has it, but we respect your opinion, sir, as ever.
Yeah, I had the button ready for the pray for me. I'm going to make this decision. But Andy spelled me. He spelled me the decision, so I don't need to make it. For me, two very different types of leaders. Bruni's the kind of leader who, as Andy says, would charge into war for you, dripping their blood and come out the other side, charge through razor wire. Callum McGregor, very intelligent player. Sometimes I've accused him of being a bit Ned Flandery and highly-odly, a different kind of motivational style.
That's a great analogy you come up with there. Aye, 100%.
Yeah, he has sometimes when I've seen him, I'm like, come on, get pouring about it, Calmack. And I'm like, King Captain Ned Flanders strikes again. You know what I mean? Come on, big man. So he's got a different mentality, a different makeup, psychologically, a different put together very differently than Bruni. But I think the guys were right to choose Calmack, because I think over the course of time, he will finish out with more trophies, and such a hard decision. But I even feel dirty saying Calmack as well, because I'm like, half of me screaming Bruni, but I've got one eye shut for what's going to come next as well. So, and I know how bad Scotty can be. So we know who's coming next, don't we?
Yeah. Well, let's find out.
Get ready, Paddy.
Callum McGregor has the jersey. He has one last person to keep that jersey off. And who am I going to next? Who is it?
The Maestro.
Is it Kaiser? Is it Kaiser?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. It was Paddy who was first. It was Andy. Then was that you? I don't think that was you, Andy. I think it's you who's first.
Right, Kaiser. Callum McGregor is now up against. Yep, you called it. The Maestro.
Yeah.
Paul McStay.
Yeah.
Callum McGregor or Paul McStay for that number 8 jersey. Who is getting it and why? Kaiser.
I really want to say Cal because I'm looking at Paddy up there and I know he's going to say McStay and we're going to put it all on Andy. We're going to dump it all at his door and let him make the decision. But realistically, right, for all the reasons we just said, I could pick all them up and take the sentimentality out of it. Got that word that time. Put it to one side. And for me, it's the Maestro all day long. It's Paul McStay. I can't see past Paul McStay. Perhaps one of the greatest ever non-Lions, non-Lisbon Lion to play for Celtic. I've seen all the comments that people were putting in about Callum McGregor. Metronome, dictated the pace. The Maestro was all that and so much more. Had every team in Europe after him. All top sides wanted him, and he chose to stay at Celtic. For me, the Maestro all day long.
Okay, Patrick, Paul McStay or Callum McGregor for you?
Oh, fortunate enough to have seen both these guys. Paul McStay, even at 16, 17 years of age, what a player. I was there the day through his boots into the jungle. We thought he was going.
Yeah.
He signed another contract. I think I'm right in saying he was the first Celtic player to command a wage of more than £10,000 a week when he signed his deal. Oh, it's so tough that, you just think back to the Wraith Rovers game and that game could have finished him, but he came back. You know what I mean? He's two leaders, but two leaders in very different. Like Callum leads by example, but you can see him in the huddle and you can see him motivating the other guys around him. Paul McStay just led by example. I don't think you'd ever see. There's no video clips that I can remember seeing Paul McStay shouting at too many people. The guy just cruised through the game. He was on a different level to anything that was in Scotland. And let's not forget that this was Paul McStay was up against Alex Ferguson's Aberdeen in his heyday, Jim McLean's Dundee United in his heyday. I'm not trying to downplay anything that Callum has done, but the standard of Scottish football was much better there than it is now. We were getting a real challenge in those days. The early 80s from Dundee United, from Aberdeen, even from Hibs. These were good teams who gave us trouble, and Paul McStay was just a Rolls Royce of a player. I said it before. If 25, 26-year-old now, the transfer window opens and you're a manager of a football team and you discover that Paul McStay is available, how much does Paul McStay go for in today's transfer window? Yeah. So you're talking crazy money. That's how good the guy was. So I'm going to go with Paul McStay.
Okay, mate. Andy, Paul McStay, the Maestro. He has the number 8 jersey, and rightly so for me. I think everybody knows how much I love Paul McStay. He's my absolute hero. But are you making a case for Callum McGregor? Would you have gave it to Callum McGregor or would you have give it to Paul McStay as well, mate?
There is absolutely no way in the world I'm going against Paul McStay. Not a chance. And it might be a generational thing, possibly. Obviously, we're at the ages that you're fortunate enough to know both players and see both players play. There's people out there that obviously haven't seen McStay play. Same way we didn't see the Lions play and stuff like that, so it's just folklore and it's looking back on kind of footage and stories and finding out how good these players were. Paul McStay was an absolute world-class player that we had. And if Paul McStay was to play in the era of Scott Brown and Calmac, it'd be the most thought of captain of Celtic since Billy McNeil. absolutely convinced of that. And you can look at the trophy count with Calmac. But I think overall, McStay was just an absolutely superb player. Such a hero for people our kind of generation, and such a special player for us, that the fact that he gave us everything, his whole football career was given to us, and it was really unfortunate for him that it was not the greatest period in Celtic's history. Really unfortunate for him. Obviously the Coca-Cola Cup final, wasn't it? The League Cup final. That miss and losing out that trophy, obviously, and then you look at the adulation in his face, the pure relief when he won the Scottish Cup under Tommy Burns. Great footage there. He's seen him lifting that trophy. Really fantastic day that was for him. Nobody's going to come close to McStay, in my opinion. An absolute world-class player, and 100% he gets the jersey for me.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant comments there, lads. So unlucky to our Calmac. I think that was a very tough one, obviously, between him and Bruni. But the maestro, Paul McStay, gets the jersey, and look at the company he's going to be in. He slots into that number 8 position right beside our Lenny.
What a team already, yeah.
Aye, unbelievable. So Andy will get that updated for us, and that will be on Wednesday's podcast for sure. So that was
Last man standing.
So on Wednesday's podcast, we will be giving the number 9 jersey to the striker. I think we all know who it's going to be, but we'll still go through it. I think the debate before that will be very, very interesting. But we are playing with one up front, and like I said, I think we all know who's going to get that number 9 jersey.
Adam Ida.
I'm trying to imagine Paul McStay playing in the same midfield as Rio Hatate. Imagine Rio Hatate and Paul McStay.
Frightening. Absolutely frightening. Midfield. Yeah, so that's us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back on Wednesday. But Jerry's been really busy with work and stuff, so hopefully he'll be back with us, and we will have a full team. Paddy.
Sorry, mate. Can I give a special mention and a wee bit of the harmonica, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the hottest day of the year. Oh, for the man who got 8 months on the hottest day of the year for throwing a bottle at Vinny Sinisalo. Dirty, smelly onion in his turkey teeth. Don't drop the soap, my man. That's all I've got to say. Enjoy Barrel. Enjoy the hot weather. Cooking up there in a wee concrete box. Get it right in you.
Aye, that was nice to see. We might touch on that on Friday night. So that's us. Thank you very much, Paddy.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Andy. And thank you very much, Kaiser. Absolutely brilliant podcast again, as ever. We'll see you on Wednesday night. All the best, and hail, hail.
Hail, hail, guys.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Someday you will find